Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we finally get the opportunity to take a look at the Battle Damage Spinosaurus from Mattel. The brand new Spinosaurus, the first one to officially hit the United States with mass quantities, and I am super psyched to finally do this and take a look at this. I've been kind of hunting this one for quite a few weeks now, as everybody seems to be getting them in their local Walmarts, but mine, actually all of the surrounding areas, everywhere within about 2 hours of me, all pretty much boycotted this Spinosaurus, and for some reason it was just not showing up at all. So I was lucky enough to place an order on Walmart.com and have it shipped site to store, and now here it is to look at with you guys. You can see as far as the packaging goes, we've got Battle Damage down here in the corner, of course the Spino right there, and then we've got Rexy over here giving us a nice little angry look, like she's jealous that we're looking at the Spinosaurus instead of her. And then on the back we've got an image of the Spino, of course some of the battle damage feature there, a little bit more of it as well, and a little bit more of it as well, and then some images here of some of the other battle damage figures in the line. So I'm super psyched, cannot wait anymore, as I've waited quite a while, all ready to take a look at this. So let's break it out of the box and take a look at it. So here's my first official glance at this out of the packaging. It really does look quite cool, even if the paint scheme isn't quite as nice as the legacy version. It's still pretty exciting in general to have a new version of the Spinosaurus, a battle damage version, but also exciting to have one that's actually accessible here in the United States, and you don't have to bother someone from the United Kingdom or somewhere to order one for you, or actually hunt it down on Target with the few minutes that it would show up every week or so. So I am really excited to take a look at the Spino. It's awesome that we now officially have one here in the United States. We don't have to be so concerned with missing out on it, as even though it's not as awesome as the legacy version, it is still really cool in general. So let's go ahead and get a closer look at this guy right now. So we're really only interested in basically what's new, as we have reviewed the overall Spinosaurus sculpt before. There was the original legacy version, which we have already looked at here on the channel, so nothing has really changed as far as the sculpt goes, aside from the battle damage. This is exactly the same Spinosaurus as what we had previously from Mattel. But regardless, as far as the likeness of this Spino, I do want to state how incredibly well done it is. I think that it looks exactly like the JP3 Spino, which is really cool, and I cannot wait for the upcoming film. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that the next Jurassic World actually displays the Spinosaurus in it, at least for a little bit. I would love to see it make a return at least one time. But I think if I had to choose, I would probably rather the Dilophosaurus actually return, as it is an absolute crime that that has not come back yet. But anyway, we're here looking at this Spino. I sometimes get off topic, but you can see that overall the paint application as far as the head goes is just a bluish color, and then it transitions really quite nicely actually to this like greenish brown up here on the back of the head and the top of the head. It's kind of a weird color, but I really actually would have preferred more of this color on it than the blue, because I really think that that blue is not too natural looking. I mean, maybe if it was done in a more realistic manner, it might look alright, but personally, I'm not a huge fan of it. Again, I would have much rather this to be in the legacy colors, and just given the battle damage, we really didn't need the new paint scheme, although it is cool, I guess, to have alternate versions of this figure. The eyes are painted perfectly. You can see they are extremely nicely done, really quite on point. The teeth are pretty nice as well. There's no real sloppiness anywhere that I can see. The paint of the teeth on the lower jaw does run down onto basically the gum line, but I don't think that's too big of a deal. You can see that the inside of the mouth is really nicely colored, nicely glossed as well. Very beautiful detailing on the underside of the mouth and up here on the upper side as well. Really realistic looking. That actually does look really cool. The tongue is a slightly different shade of color than what you see here, just ever so slightly, but it doesn't really look like it has a gloss like you see everywhere else, which is kind of weird. Normally Mattel does gloss the tongues. The tongue is actually quite articulated, because when you do the extreme chomping feature, which is what this used to be, you can see that the tongue kind of vibrates everywhere like it's yelling. So it looks pretty cool. It doesn't stick up quite like the original one did. The original one, the tongue stuck straight out, like right around there. It doesn't do that. This is the newer version as far as the extreme chomping feature. This side also looks really good. You can see the eye is painted perfectly over here as well, so hopefully that will continue to be the case when it comes to anybody that buys these. Hopefully we won't have any issues as far as quality control when it comes to eye placement. This Spino specifically looks really good. I can definitely say that. Of course, the teeth are painted with a whitish color, and they kind of appear to have a gloss as well. But I'm interested in the fact that there's no real texture to the tongue. It seems like Mattel has really updated a lot of their figures as far as texturing the tongue and giving them a very detailed appearance, but they haven't done that with the Spino, and I'm not really sure why. I think that could have been something cool, a new addition to the figure that would have helped it look a little bit different, a little bit better as far as that goes, but they did not go that route. As we go down the neck, you can see that brownish color, that greenish brown, I don't even really know exactly how to explain it, does continue to run down the neck all the way down here, but it stops short of the sail because it then runs along the border of the sail. You can see it primarily becomes mostly the entire color of the sail right there, but you can see it run up along here, and then you can see it transition here to a slightly different brown, and that's because that's part of the battle damage. You actually push that down to activate the battle damage inside. Then if we look over here on the legs, you can see the legs have like that same brownish green that you see up here. It's almost like a military type color, and it kind of litters the leg all over the place as you move down into the calf. The nails are painted really nicely. You can see them glisten and shine very nicely as well. Beautiful gloss coat on them. The nails of the hand, however, are not painted, which is definitely a bit of a downside. I would have preferred they were painted. Of course, the dew claw always gets looked over. We don't ever paint those for some reason. And that's pretty much it as far as the new paint application. The rest of the body is just that bluish color. I'm not even sure that I actually see the speckles or anything that Mattel loves to include in their figures normally. Yeah, I really don't see that anywhere, so there's no real speckling or anything like that. Just the blue and the greenish brown type color, and that's about it. So as far as paint apps go, it's not really that flashy. It's not that incredible. Definitely not as nice as the Legacy version, but it's still pretty cool, I guess. Even though we have, of course, reviewed the Sculpt before, we will measure it again just because, why not? So for a length from the tail to the tip of the head, it's about 21 and a quarter, move it in the frame there, about 21 and a quarter inches, or about 54 and a half, almost 55 centimeters. And for a height, if we're going to go to the head, about here in the neck area, you're going to see it at about 8 inches or 20 centimeters, or the sail here is about 10 inches or about 25 and a half centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, who you can see is incredibly dwarfed by the Spinosaurus. That is one thing that is really cool about the Spino, is just how incredibly large it is. It is definitely a very big figure, much bigger than the T-Rex. Of course, I guess we're talking extreme chomp, and it's probably not too much bigger than the Thrash and Throw, but it's definitely a very, very large figure, and that's exactly the same case here, not just with the Legacy one. I believe this is exactly the same size. Unfortunately, I don't have my Legacy Spino here to take a look at with this, but I can tell you it is the same size, same sculpt, so there's really no difference aside from the battle damage and paint application. So, of course, as far as articulation goes, you've got the articulated jaw, you've got articulation in the neck in 2 different spots, which is one of the reasons I really love the Extreme Chomp and T-Rex, because I love the articulation of the figure. It creates so much posability and it works perfectly. And then you've got the arms, you've also got the legs. We can make them do a split if we want. You've got ankle articulation on a swivel. And then the tail up here really wonderfully articulates all over the place. You can also swivel it here. So, tons of articulation in our Spinosaurus. And then, of course, for the battle damage feature, which is what I'm sure most people are interested in if you haven't seen the figure quite yet. So basically what you've got to do is peel the skin off here. And now we have exposed the rib cage. But you can, of course, go even further than that and pull the rib cage down. And then you've got the insides of the Spinosaurus in here looking nice and gross. Very shiny, very glossy like you would expect to find. And then you can do this, which moves the insides of the Spinosaurus around, making it look even more gross. I also love that here on the inside you've got like this pinkish color, which kind of shows like the muscles and everything inside being exposed, and it's also really nicely glossed. So as far as realism goes, it looks really quite cool. It definitely has that very bloody, glossy type of an appearance that you would expect if a dinosaur was ripped open like this. However, I'm not so sure that if we were to rip a dinosaur open, its insides would start doing this. but it's still a cool little feature. Definitely different. I've never seen anything like this as far as a Spinosaurus or even a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World figure at all that had that kind of like articulated battle damage. Definitely really, really cool on the part of Mattel, who is always trying to innovate and create new exciting products for us. I think they've really achieved that here with the Spinosaurus. I also wanted to show you guys the Jurassic Facts app code if you want to add this guy to your collection. Hopefully the light's good enough that you can in fact do that. But as far as this Battle Damage Spinosaurus from Mattel goes, I think it's honestly great. I really, really quite like it. I think the battle damage feature is really cool, definitely new and innovative, and I'm always a fan of anything new that we've never seen before. It's always exciting to have something added into the Jurassic Park or Jurassic World line that we haven't seen before. So the battle damage is definitely groundbreaking, definitely exciting in my opinion, and I am quite the fan of it. Another thing that's really cool is the fact that the battle damage piece, the skin area that covers the battle damage area, actually has kind of a real feel to it. So there's a little tiny feel of Kenner back there with that as well. I think that the sculpt of the Spino, I've said in the last review, is awesome. It is so beautifully done. Of course, we're not talking proportions because a few of the proportions are off. We can definitely tell that. The tail's a little too short. Legs are probably a little too big. Feet are definitely too big. The sail, I feel like, is a little too small, and the head is not proportioned perfectly. But I think as far as the overall likeness of the animal in toy form, they've done an incredible job. And I will always say that when it comes to this Spinosaurus, Mattel absolutely destroys it when it comes to their sculpts. They continuously just deliver in that department. The paint application is not so great. I feel like Mattel really could have come up with something a little better than this because it's kind of a boring paint scheme, to be honest. The blue and then that like greenish brown color is just, it's just not doing it for me, to be honest. I mean, it's cool to have an alternate version. It's nice to have an alternate paint version of the Spinosaurus because I personally love to have alternate versions of each dinosaur. Not too many people are super excited about repaints, however, this isn't a straight up repaint. But as far as repainting the figure goes, I really am not a big fan of the paint job of this. I feel like Mattel could have come up with something a little more creative, a little better than this somewhat bland and boring paint scheme that they've gone with. However, with that said, I will say that it doesn't look terrible. It has kind of a decent appearance to it, and I can definitely say that in person it's really not that bad. It's just not as good as it could have been. I personally really like the Legacy version a lot better as far as the paint scheme goes, but I really do also love having this version with this battle damage feature that they've done here. So, overall, it's a very cool Spinosaurus figure, and I am incredibly thankful and happy for the fact that we indeed get an option of having another Spinosaurus, because previously the last one was a total nightmare to get a hold of. So many people that wanted one ended up missing out on their opportunity, never got a chance thanks to Target and their, for some reason, unbelievably stupid opinion of not carrying the Spinosaurus in store. Really screwed a lot of people here in the United States out of getting the Spinosaurus, so thankfully Mattel has gone ahead and resurrected the Spinosaurus and fixed the issue of us not getting a chance to own one. Even if it's not the best paint scheme, at least we now have another Spinosaurus here. So with that said, I will include a link to the listing on Walmart.com where I purchased mine. So if it's still in stock, you can purchase it there. If not, it should start to show up in store if it's not in your store already, hopefully sometime soon. If not, check BrickSeek and you'll probably be able to find one somewhere close to you that a little traveling should be able to guarantee you a battle damage Spinosaurus. Hopefully. I'll keep my fingers crossed for all of you. So check the description, but before you do that, don't forget to please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.